Law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this November 18th, 2025. Boy, November is going by fast, isn't it? November 18th, 2025. We're going to have on David Pyne tonight for a few minutes. I want to talk about this headline here. Russia could drown Britain, but it's also not just that. It's also America. Putin's new super weapons that could obliterate the West in seconds. How Kremlin can trigger Armageddon at the flick of a switch with flying Chernobyl, tsunami torpedo, and space nuke. We'll talk about that. And then what about this war between Russia and Ukraine? Here we are now, about 10 months into the Trump administration. He was going to end that war on day one, but it's not ending. And I want to ask David tonight about why is it not ending? And why did he not have, President Trump, his summit with Putin? We'll talk about that with David Pyne, a quick update. And then, of course, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia went to the White House today. We'll bring you some of the footage. And I'm going to talk to Robert Spencer of jihadwatch.org. Jihadwatch.org. Why should many of the family members of 9/11 be absolutely incensed today? Who is the Crown Prince? Why is this a problem to be giving this kind of welcome, military jets flying over, all this pomp and circumstance? Why is this a problem? Why is this actually troubling to many of us? You'll hear from Robert Spencer tonight of jihadwatch.org. Greg Abbott signed, I guess, a document today, executive order, claiming Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations that they are a foreign terrorist and transnational criminal organization. I'm going to ask Robert about this. Is this just more posturing by Greg Abbott? And then Anni Cyrus has got to come on for a few minutes. I got to let poor Annie vent because she's beside herself today, and rightfully so, over what she's also been seeing. And I want to get her take on it as well, what happened today at the White House. Okay? Let's see. Now, I guess the House passed the bill to let out the Epstein list. And apparently, it's also now passed the Senate. Let's see. I think I have a video here, a little video. Here we go. Listen to this. Listen. Here we go. Just happened just a little bit earlier.
Without objection, so ordered.
The Senate has now passed the Epstein bill as soon as it comes.
There you go. So they're going to pass it, or they have passed it. Which one is it, Logan? They passed it. So now it goes to Trump's signature. I guess he's going to sign it. Curious will be to see if everything's in there. Or did they clean it up? I don't know. President Trump was on a roll. I don't know when this was, the other day. On Air Force One. Got upset with a lady that asked a question. Listen to this.
You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why not? Why
Quiet,
using as a
quiet, begin.
Woo! What?
sir, why not? Why using as a
Quiet, begin.
Quiet piggy. Ouch. I don't think he should be doing that. I don't think he should be doing that. That's not presidential. Can you see Logan? See if you can. I can do it probably faster than you can. Let's see. President Reagan with Helen Thomas. Now, Helen was kind of lefty, that's for sure, absolute lefty. But can you see Ronald Reagan talking that way to Helen Thomas? Well, maybe you're going to have to help me, Logan. I'm going to have to go to another channel. I was going to show a video of Reagan and Helen Thomas exchanging words back and forth. Because, boy, and Sam Donaldson did the same thing to poor President Reagan. See, President Reagan and Helen Thomas. Let's see if I can find a little exchange between the two of them. Yeah, here we go. Oh, come on.
The Bespoke
commercial.
AI family.
Oh, we'll wait for that to pass for a second. I'm kind of going back to the 80s here. Here we go.
Directly or indirectly at least twice that the Contras were benefiting from the Iran arms sale. Is that true, or were you deceived and lied to by Admiral Poindexter and Colonel North? And I'd like to follow on. Mr. President, you didn't answer the question on North or Poindexter. Did they deceive you? You didn't answer whether Poindexter and North deceived.
He didn't say, quiet, Piggy. He would have never done that. That was June 16th, 1981. I mean, and Helen Thomas could get in your face. But he didn't do that kind of thing. He tried to stay presidential. But, yeah, I've never quite seen a president do those kind of things. I would think Melania would be telling him, don't do that kind of stuff. There's a midterm coming up. And you got to get out there and work for your party and they're women voters. And you just can't be doing that. But there you go. That was a little shocking when I saw that today. So for what it's worth. Let's see, what else do we have of interest before we go to our first guest? Let's see here. Oh, this is interesting. The New York Post. Washington man severely ill with unpredictable virus never before seen in humans. Logan, you got some scary music to go with that? You got any scary music on your little machine in there? Oh, he's got a machine in there that makes all kinds of noises. That seems like a October 31st headline. Oh, that's not scary. Washington man severely ill with unpredictable virus never seen before in humans. Let's see if you crack a joke, but we'll take it. I don't know. Don't you love these headlines? Because you know what? I see these headlines about people bleeding from the eyes and different things. And I'm not making light of people that have something like that. But I see these kind of headlines at certain unnamed websites. I won't say them because they do put out some good news. I don't want to ridicule them because they do put out some good stories. But you see these headlines and then you never hear a word about it again. So I generally am not quick to get too excited about that. I'm not too quick to get excited about that because I want to say, well, let's see what happens. Because a lot of times that's a headline and then nothing. It's a headline and then nothing. All right, let's see. Anything else over at Worldview? Oh, yeah. Look at this. Arson attacks on Christian churches rise to record high in Germany. Huh. Now, I wonder why. I wonder what would be causing record high attacks in Germany on churches. If you have something new happening, you have to ask, what has changed? What new thing has occurred that might be setting the stage for this? Oh, I don't know, maybe importing a gazillion Islamists? Breitbart reports the number of anti-Christian arson attacks on churches in Germany has surged to a record high amid a climate of growing intolerance. A report from the Observatory on Intolerance and Discrimination Against Christians in Europe found. Its annual report published this week based on data collected from European police forces, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and various civil society groups, reported there were 33 arson attacks against German churches in 2024. This represented a record high for the country and stood at the most of any country in Europe last year. For several years now, we have been dealing with an escalating problem. Excrement in holy water fonts and confessionals, decapitated statues of Christ and saints, cigarette butts and other litter in front of devotional images, damaged prayer and hymn books, overturned pews, smashed windows, altar pieces, and entire altars destroyed by arson. Oh, yeah. Remember that? Rwandan migrant allegedly murdered a Catholic priest, sentenced to 4 years for French cathedral arson. Well, I think it has to do with all the illegals you bring in there, all the troublemakers. And I bet you some of these might be Islamist. I don't know. Probably not all of them. Paris, churches targeted by arson attacks 3 times within days. Wow. That's one headline. So there you go. That's in the news. And of course, we're going to continue to see, I'm afraid, the rise of attacks on Christians. You can use big C, little c for that one. Christians. Yep. Let's see. Anything else? I guess not. Oh, you go to worldviewreport.com. We have your daily aggregated news site. Your daily aggregated news site. Let's see here. Oh, this is good news. I got to say something positive about the Trump administration. I really appreciate this. I'm not kidding. ICE partners launch initiative to protect 450,000 children from unvetted sponsors. Immigration and Customs, or ICE, launched an initiative aimed at protecting these 450,000 who were illegally smuggled into the United States and then placed with unvetted sponsors. You know, we dealt with this topic a lot with Tara Rodas. So I got to say, good job. Thank you, Trump administration. Thank you. I told you guys, when I see something I like, I want to say it. When I see something I don't like, I got to say it. This is something I'm very happy about. Thank you, President Trump and the Trump administration, for leading the efforts here to find out where these 450,000 children are and if they're safe. I guess they're doing welfare checks on nearly 500,000 children to ensure they are living safely and not subjected to any exploitation, so says the DHS. Well, I'm all for that. I think that's a very good idea. Let's see. What else? Ooh, this is kind of interesting, Logan. Have you seen this? This is the, look at this. Have you seen this, Logan? The Economist magazine. This is their magazine cover. The World Ahead 2026. Well, there you go. What do you see in there? I see a raised fist with a handcuff around it. I see a rocket. Now, Logan, I see a ship here that looks like, that almost looks, that one on the far left there, doesn't that look like a cargo container with rockets coming off of it? Who's talked about that, Logan? Yeah, me. It's in my movie Sabotage in 2018, the Club K cargo system. That's interesting. What do the economists know? Oh, you know what's interesting, folks? Look at this. The satellite, Logan. What's the satellite doing? It's sending a signal down to the cargo container. Do you know that's exactly what I talk about in my documentary, Siege, or Sabotage in 2018. That the lid, do you have any of that footage, Logan? You can roll that in there? Maybe, I know it's short notice, I know. But in that documentary, I show how a lid pops up on the Club K cargo system. And up pops 2 to 4 silos that can have missiles on them with small miniaturized nuclear weapons on the end, known as a beach ball. The technology was actually developed, I think, by a guy out of Iraq. Let's go back to that, Logan. I'm just seeing that right now. I mean, I looked at this earlier today, but I didn't see that. The fact that it's got a satellite sending a signal to these boxcars on a ship and then something shooting off. Very interesting. Now, why would The Economist magazine do that? And they're highlighting the 250th anniversary of America. Wow. Now, what is this? What is this, Logan? It looks like is that an Xbox controller right there next to the birthday cake, to the right of the birthday cake? It's a PS what? PlayStation controller, what's the line going to? What is out on the other end? It's a brain. You're right. You're going to hook your brain to the video games. Notice the two tanks. One on the right, the red, one on the left. You know what else I'm seeing here, Logan? Look at that on the far right. On the far right, right there. What is that? That guy is holding what looks to be like a shoulder-launched, like man pads. Shoulder-launched missiles. That's what that looks like. What are they trying to tell us? You got the dollar sign in red. Can't be a good sign. Anybody else noticing anything? I see a lot of syringes. And then we just reported on some guy with a virus never seen in humans before tonight. Who knows? Look at this. That's a gavel in the center there, the red gavel coming down, and it's cracking the piece of wood that it's being hammered on. Got somebody voting there. See that. Robots, see that. Stock markets all over the place. I see that. Is anything else jumping out? You got the robotic dogs. I see that up the top. Looks like Zelensky over here on the far right. You got a submarine, an eyepiece of a submarine sticking up out of the water. Plenty of satellites orbiting. I get that. I guess the one that disturbs me the most, though, is what looks like the Club K car, the satellite sending a signal to it, because that's exactly what's in my documentary. That you get a satellite command, can open the lid, and they could shoot these things off in the U.S. And we have no defense system for this. We don't have like an Iron Dome here. I bet you I'm missing something, but that's the stuff that's jumping out at me the most. I see Xi Jinping, what looks to be Benjamin Netanyahu. That's the one that jumps out. What's that? The person at the bottom? Which one? I don't know either. What's that guy like is that a robot carrying a box? I don't know what that's about. I guess that's taking all your jobs. But yeah, the one that gets me the most is the Club K car. I'm just seeing that on the air. I did not have time to look at this as closely as I should have before we went on the air, but wow. That's The Economist magazine, The World Ahead 2026. Well, save this in the archive. We may be coming back to this. You know, the elite, the globalists like to kind of predict stuff. So who knows? Who knows? Anyway, there you go. That's all at worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. All right, hey, before we get started tonight, look at this right here. I drink it every day. It's called Gatatana. It's a plankton. It's all natural, nothing added. I take a scoop. I drink it every day because one scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Goes down to your cellular level, the mitochondria, to feed your cells, boost your immune system, and help you fight off the bad stuff. And there's a lot of science behind this. And you know, the guy that developed it, I'm not making claims, but the guy that developed it had a terminal cancer case. He started eating and drinking this because he was raising it for his like starfish or crayfish. Went in for a biopsy. 11 biopsies came back benign. Right? Remember that? There it is. There's a picture of him and his daughter. Terminal diagnosis. He went on to live another 10 years, I'm told, retired to Hawaii. That's how Global Plankton Alliance was born. And Melissa and I drink this every day, one scoop in water. We give half a scoop to Dolly. Can we go to the Dolly cam, Logan? No? Because that's a great shot of her right now. Oh, she just woke up. Oh, you fixed it? Well, it's too late. But she was falling off her bed, so sound asleep. But the blood was running to her head, so she sat up. Get every bit of this. There you go. All right. MelissaHouseGPA.com. I think it's a great way to support us and your health at the same time. Of course, all our other sponsors, you know them. I'm not going to belabor the point. Got to keep going here tonight. All the other sponsors are there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. By the way, a lot of these things make great Christmas gifts. A satellite phone, solar generator, bulletproof backpack, and so much more. I would not be without plenty of pharmaceuticals, as in the antibiotics. I would definitely be stocking up on those. Actually, you could barter with those, folks. Something happens to our economy, or there's a war or cyber attack. By the way, we were down for a while today. One of the companies we use went down and took down a lot of big companies for a while, didn't it, Logan? Including X. We were down too. So is that a cyber attack? I don't know. But folks, if they cyber attack the grid, we go down for a while and you need antibiotics, will you have them on hand? I will. What if you wanted to barter with them? I would order extra and barter with these things. I would also be bartering with freeze-dried food. In fact, why don't you go over there real quick, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I have 3 years worth of freeze-dried food at least, because I want to be able to barter with it if I want to, okay? Not only, this is real food, by the way, real food. It's good. We put it in front of people, they've eaten it, they didn't even know. They didn't even know that it was freeze-dried food until we told them. But I would order enough of this to be able to barter with it. The dollar goes kaput. People are realizing the dollar's losing value, and you can buy more today than you can next week. They're going to run to the store, start buying things they know they need. Your stores are going to go bare. Not to mention with food inflation, what are you going to do if we move into hyperinflation like they did in Venezuela a few years ago? Literally, the middle class were eating out of garbage trucks. I have the video. It's in my documentary, Siege. So I would have plenty of freeze-dried food on hand. And I would also not only use it for that, but I'd use it for bartering if I have to, because people have to have food. So do what you want. This is a great way to support us and yourself. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right, Worldview Store. And we have the heaters and the ovens and all kinds of other stuff as well. Worldviewstore.com. There she is. Yeah, there she is. The other shot was better, though. She was laying off the bed. But Dolly, hello. You say hello to your fam? The fam. Fam's saying hello to you tonight, Dolly. Yeah, back to sleep. All right. Yeah, that big sigh. You see that big sigh she let out? Yeah, life is rough, isn't it, Dolly? You have it so hard. All right. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Let's get started. Joining me now is Robert Spencer of jihadwatch.org. Well, we got plenty to talk about with the Crown Prince in Washington, D.C. today, getting the royal treatment at the White House. Take a look at this, please. All right, let's stop right there. The flag. They even had some horses go by, which I'll show that too. That flag, that's the Saudi flag. Well, it sure looks awfully similar to the flag of Hamas, does it not?
Well, it's the same thing in a certain sense. It says there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. And the flag of Hamas, the flag of the Taliban, they say the same thing. So really, it's a different design, but the sentiments are identical.
Mm-hmm. How does it make you feel seeing that all over the White House there and next to our American flag? Let's say Robert Spencer was president. Number one, would you have welcomed this guy to the White House, this Saudi prince, number one? And number two, if you felt like you needed to meet with him for some reason, would you be doing all of this and having his flag everywhere, knowing what it says and what it's really declaring?
No, certainly not. I think that there are certainly circumstances under which it might be necessary from a geopolitical standpoint to talk to the man, to meet with the man, but to do it with all this pomp and circumstance is, I think, yet another indication of the fact that this administration seems to have forgotten everything it once knew about Islamic Jihad terrorism. And I say forgotten because unlike other administrations, which never showed any indication of knowing what jihad was all about or wanting to know, the Trump administration, the president has in the past spoken about Islam, about the jihad terror threat more realistically than any of
seems low in my ear
of recent times.
Wow. Well, here's another video. Here's one. This kind of bothered me. There's the horses with that flag too. I don't know. I just don't like seeing our guys carrying that flag. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You agree?
It does. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Also, when have we seen this kind of ceremony, this kind of pageantry with other heads of state who visited? I don't remember seeing this with Netanyahu or with Zelensky or with the President Macron of France or anybody else when they've come to the White House. So why is this guy getting this lavish treatment? He's the last one who should have gotten it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this guy is also, we'll get into what he's been accused of, but most Americans, have they forgotten about Saudi Arabia's role in 9/11, Iran? Wasn't it Saudi Arabia that didn't stamp their passports? That was Iran that didn't stamp their passports, so you would see Iran on there. But the Saudi government had to be involved with these hijackers in some way, right? Their hands weren't just, wasn't just like, some rogue Americans go do something. You can't always blame the government. But I'm believing that the Saudis had to have some involvement in the 9/11 attacks, right?
There's a great deal of circumstantial evidence there. For one thing, the fact that the Saudi involvement was redacted for so many years. While George W. Bush was there holding hands with King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, while the U.S. continued to act as if Saudi Arabia is a reliable ally, in the middle of all that, the 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission report about Saudi involvement were completely covered up. Finally, under heavy pressure, the Obama administration released some of it. We saw that some of the hijackers had high-level connections to people in the Saudi government, that there were all kinds of questionable things going on. Like, I can even tell you one from my own experience. I knew a guy who was very ill. He's since passed away. And he was at the Mayo Clinic the whole summer of 2001. And he told me after 9/11 that everybody else that was there was Saudi princes at the Mayo, because they wanted the best healthcare in the world. So they're at the Mayo Clinic. And that on the morning of September 11th, 2001, he woke up, he goes downstairs, and the place is empty. The Saudis have all cleared out. And that was before the news hit of the planes hitting the towers. And so, that's just one little thing. There's hundreds of pieces of evidence like that. And indications that Prince Bandar, that others were involved at a very high level, or at least were in touch with the hijackers. And yet there's never been any accountability, never been any acknowledgement on the part of the U.S. government, primarily because we have such extensive business dealings with the Saudis, and especially during the Biden regime and the Obama administration before it, there was the attempt to end domestic energy production and make us completely dependent upon the Saudis. So the last thing they wanted to do was antagonize them, although, of course, Joe Biden ended up doing that anyway.
I think we have a clip from some of the 9/11 families, don't we, on this today, guys? Okay. I would love to see if we could find some clips of any of the 9/11 families, if anyone can find those. I don't know if any of the 9/11 families are out saying anything today. I don't know, but I would think I would be if I had a family member I lost in any of those attacks. I don't know if you're referring, Logan, to the ABC clip, but here's the ABC clip. Listen to this. Here we go.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. And I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump, and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep of the fund guy was with him all the time. What's his name?
Reid Hoffman.
Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions.
Well, that was longer than I expected and related mostly to Jeffrey Epstein. But I wanted to go ahead and let it play because what do you think the prince is thinking sitting there?
What the prince is thinking probably is that it's amazing how these Americans tolerate this to start with, because the Saudi government doesn't get that far. They don't have any kind of free press. They don't have anything remotely approaching a free press. So the idea of MBS, the crown prince there, Mohammed bin Salman, or his father, the king, engaging with any journalist in that way is inconceivable. At the same time, of course, it's a wonderful thing to see because Trump was entirely right Although I did note that he did scold, and I think this must be the reason for showing the clip now, is that he did upbraid the reporter for asking him about Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post reporter who was murdered in the Saudi embassy in Turkey a few years back when he went in to get some papers related to his marriage. And so that is something that has been a stain on the Saudi regime's human rights record. I think it's entirely legitimate to ask the question. At the same time, I thought it was entirely legitimate for Trump to lay into ABC in that way. So it's kind of a shame that it was all mixed up together, because it would actually be good to see MBS explain what the deal was with Jamal Khashoggi. He just says he had nothing to do with it, as if it were some sort of a spontaneous thing happening in the Saudi embassy. Spontaneous murders don't happen in the Saudi embassy. This is a highly authoritarian state. And so it strains credulity for him to claim some distance from that. Now, Jamal Khashoggi was not a good man. He was Muslim Brotherhood. He was Muslim Brotherhood in the pages of the Washington Post. That in itself was a scandal, but that doesn't justify him being murdered. And so it should have been, the question really should have been asked and answered.
Okay, so let's see here. I do have a clip here by President Trump on this one. Here we go. Take a listen to this.
He's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
It's just you ask, Mr. President, you allow me to answer. I feel painful about,
Okay, so he's upset. President Trump was upset that the press asked about it. But if you let the press in, don't you think the press is going to ask that question, for Pete's sake? I mean, that's what reporters do, right?
Yeah, if you had asked me, what are they going to ask MBS and Trump?
Exactly.
It's going to be Khashoggi and Epstein. That's all they care about. They don't care about some trade deal. They don't even care that he's selling or giving, I don't know, F-35s to the Saudis. They only care about Epstein and Khashoggi and Epstein. That's the only thing they were ever going to be asking about. That was obvious. He should have known. If he didn't want them there, he shouldn't have brought them in.
I don't know if we have the longer version of that, Logan, because I think there's a minute and 23 seconds of it. I'd like to see the longer version of it real quick. All right, roll what you got.
Is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia
Ooh,
while
that's
you're
a good
president?
one.
Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news, ABC fake news, one of the
The
worst,
question is
one of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now.
Okay, so what do you make of that, Robert?
Well, here again, the question wasn't answered. And so I think that, it's a difficult situation, Brandon, because I don't have any sympathy for these journalists. I feel the same way about ABC News as the president does. At the same time, you got to wonder, well, okay, we are there in the Oval Office with this authoritarian ruler of a state with a very poor human rights record that financed Muslim Brotherhood run mosques all over the United States just a few years ago, before admittedly it stopped doing that over the last few years, and Turkey has taken up the slack. But at the same time, This is supposed to be an ally of the United States. The United States is supposed to be in favor of certain principles, and this is a regime that doesn't seem to hold to those principles and actually seems to actively trample upon them, as with the killing of this Muslim Brotherhood operative journalist. So what's the deal? Are we not entitled to an explanation? And I wish that somebody from a real news agency would ask the president and ask MBS, and maybe we could get some answers then.
Well, here's an article from Forbes. I showed it the other day, dated November 14th. Here's everything we know about Trump's financial ties to Saudi Arabia. I think he has quite a bit of investments over there, and certainly some of his people around him, don't they?
Yeah. And so that's another thing you got to ask. Now, see, this is something that people who support the president have not really wanted to face, because we want to think, well, our guy, he's not Joe Biden. He's not Kamala Harris. He's America first. He's out for our best interests. Now, that's all true. And yet that doesn't mean that this man does everything right or that everything he does is perfect. There is nobody on earth that does not sin. And so you've got the fact that he does have these extensive dealings in Saudi Arabia. You got the same questions with Qatar and the very strange turn that he made. You know, I was saying earlier that the administration seems to have forgotten what it knew about Islamic terror. And one of the things that I was basing that on was the fact that 9 years ago, Trump said Qatar is a chief sponsor of terror. And now they're our great ally, and they're helping sort out what's going to happen in Gaza. And what's changed? Absolutely nothing has changed. And yet we do know that Qatar gave an airplane to the president for Air Force One. So is it legitimate to ask that if there was some untoward activity going on here? And it's not, you know, here again, it's a shame that the inquiry is foreclosed from the start, because the Democrats, in their authoritarianism and their fascism, they pursued Trump through the courts in a lot of bogus lawsuits for years. And so now it seems, if you even ask the question about anything that Trump is doing ethically, then people are going to say, oh, you're just like Joe Biden, or you're just like Merrick Garland. You're one of these corrupt officials trying to destroy people you hate by bogus legal means. Well, no, maybe they're legitimate questions sometimes. Well, and we need to have honest answers.
Well, here's a screenshot of Forbes magazine, December 9, 2024, a month after Trump wins a second term in the White House. DAR Global announces 2 more Trump projects in Riyadh. These developments will redefine luxury living in Saudi Arabia's capital, end quote. Boast an executive with the Saudi firm. 2025 of April. As global markets tumble in response to the president's tariff plans, Trump jets to Miami, where he attends a LIV golf dinner, leading into an event for the Saudi-backed league at his Trump National Doral Golf Resort. May of 2025, for the second time, Trump travels to Riyadh earlier in his term, kicking off a 3-nation tour of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all countries where the Trump organization is actively working on real estate deals with Saudi Arabia's Dar Al Arkan. September 2025, Dar Global announces a second Trump property in Jeddah, dubbed Trump Plaza Jeddah, which will include offices, apartments, and a green space inspired by Central Park. September 2025, again, Kushner's Affinity partners team up with Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund to buy a video game giant, Electronic Arts, for $55 billion. Less than a month later, Kushner is working with the Arab leaders to try to bring about a peace deal in Gaza. Quote, what people call conflicts of interest, Steve Witkoff and I call experience and trusted relationships that we have throughout the world, end quote. That's what Kushner tells 60 Minutes. October 29, 2025, Donald Trump Jr., the president's eldest son, makes his first trip to Saudi Arabia for an investment summit that draws a who's who of Wall Street, including Blackstone, Stephen Schwarzman, and all of these other people are listed. Also in attendance, Ahmed Malik, a private equity investor whose 1789 Capital brought on Don Jr. and tasked the president's son with, among other things, raising capital. By the way, I think that Ahmed Malik's the same guy that invested in Tucker Carlson's company, who I think is the one Tucker Carlson told us, I thought Hamas was just a political organization, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, these are legitimate questions.
Yeah, because Trump seems to have changed regarding Israel. He's still saying he's a big supporter of Israel. He has been far better on Israel than a Democrat administration would have been, but he stopped the Israelis when they had a chance to end the Islamic Republic of Iran, which would have been a great gift to the entire world, to overthrow the mullahs, and he stopped them. And he stopped them from destroying Hamas in Gaza, when Israel has repeatedly said that that was their objective in this entire war, that they would not consider the war over until Hamas was completely destroyed. And Trump gave Hamas a new lease on life. What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Now, what do you make of this? Greg Abbott today, governor of Texas, today designated the Muslim Brotherhood and Council on American Islamic Relations a foreign terrorist and transnational criminal organizations. This bans them from buying or acquiring land in Texas and authorizes the Attorney General to sue to shut them down. You think this is going to impact Yasser Qadi and his compound? Why is this now happening? And is this just more blustering from Greg Abbott, or will this actually do something now?
Well, now he really has to act if he's going to be consistent and shut that compound down. And he really has to act to end CAIR's presence and influence all over Texas. Whether he will do so or not, well, that remains to be seen. But he's certainly going much farther than he had been, when previously he outlawed Sharia without mentioning Sharia, and it was all kind of weaselly. Now he's being very specific. And so it would seem like if any Muslim Brotherhood or CAIR ties are discovered at Epic City, and they will be, then Epic City should be over. Will it be? We'll see. But here, Abbott is doing what the federal government should have done years ago and still hasn't done because of Saudi money in Washington and Qatari money in Washington and Muslim Brotherhood influence and CAIR's influence in Washington. And because of that influence and that money, this step has not been taken. And so Abbott had to do it himself. And this could just be another empty gesture. We'll see. But at least he did it.
Abbott and his state given a lot of money? Did I read this week something like $9 million to the Muslims?
Yeah. And see, this is the thing where it's going to be very difficult for him to thread the needle, because he's giving it to groups that he thinks are moderate. And they probably sold him a bill of goods about how moderate they are. But I guarantee you that if he looks into these organizations, he will not have to look very far to find Muslim Brotherhood ties and ties to CAIR. And then what? Then he's got to shut them down, at least according to the letter of this proclamation that he signed this morning.
Now, what do you make of this? Trump will sell the F-35s to Saudi Arabia. I should have covered that while we were covering Saudi Arabia. What are your concerns there? And is Saudi Arabia prone to passing those off to another country? Are they banned from doing that? If they were to do that, what will we do?
As far as I know, there's no ban in keeping them from doing that. And that might happen. But even if Saudi keeps them, who are they going to use them against? Who are Saudi's enemies? There are two. They have the Islamic Republic of Iran on the one side and Israel on the other. And you might say, oh, no, Israel's not their enemy. They have all sorts of under-the-table ties with Israel. Excuse me, and that's true. But why are they under the table? Because Saudi Arabia is a Wahhabi Islamic society that hates Israel because the Quran directs Muslims to hate Jews. And so the more ties that the Saudi regime has with Israel, the more pressure it's going to get from Wahhabi hardliners within Saudi Arabia. And for example, the Saudis have said they would be interested in joining the Abraham Accords and normalizing relations with Israel, but only if a Palestinian state were established. A Palestinian state is just going to be another jihad base to hit Israel with, like Gaza was when the Israelis withdrew from Gaza. So what the Saudis are saying is, you continue to allow the jihad to destroy Israel, and we will pretend to be friends with Israel. Great. But that doesn't take away the fact that they really are pursuing the jihad imperative against Israel. And there's no indication really that they're going to abandon it. If they did abandon it, probably the Saudi monarchy would be overthrown. So I think that it's a very real possibility those F-35s could be used against Israel, and not just against Iran or to defend themselves against Iran. And that this hasn't been sufficiently thought through in Washington because they're dealing entirely on the level of pragmatism and forgetting ideology and the power of religion, and they don't understand Islamic jihad anyway.
What do you make of this article here on a fascinating theory on radical Islam in America? The Middle East has been dumping all of their extremists to Europe and USA intentionally. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Iran pay to construct mosques in Europe and the USA, pay salaries of imams to go there also, exporting their I mean, it's not they're extremists, it's Islam. Islam is Islam. But what do you make? I mean, this is their goal, right? I mean, how many mosques does Texas now have, for Pete's sake? And I hear they're coming after my state of Tennessee next. I hear that's next up after Texas.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Tennessee has actually been targeted for a long time. And I spoke there at in Johnson City at East Tennessee State University almost 20 years ago. And it was so remote, Brandon, as you know. We flew into Nashville, me and my security guy, and we drove, 2 hours into wilderness, into nothing, to get to Johnson City. And I expected it to be a quiet evening. I get to the place and I'm speaking in the hall, and the whole place, 200 people, it's all Muslims from the local mosque. Now, who would have thought that there were enough Muslims in Johnson City, Tennessee to fill the mosque? But they have been making a concerted effort to target red states and rural areas. In Texas, like you mentioned, the number of mosques has doubled just in the last few years. And now there are 48 at last count. Texas has 48 mosques, and there are more being built every day. And nobody seems to care because 20 years ago, I was fighting this and saying these places are subversive Muslim Brotherhood centers of jihad. And people said that's racist and bigoted and Islamophobic. And it became the refrain that anytime anybody would resist the building of a mosque, they were shut down by being called Islamophobic. And yet those mosques really are centers of Muslim Brotherhood operations. And if Abbott is serious about shutting down the Brotherhood, he's going to have to shut down a lot of those mosques.
What do you make? I showed it yesterday on the website. The Venezuelan and Iranian-linked, IRGC-linked LLCs that apparently own properties from Central California all the way down and across to the east side of Texas, and then a bunch in Florida. And I guess the claim that's being made by the guy that's reporting it, a Jason Luris, is that these are LLCs that own homes that are, I guess, hiding out would-be terrorists or terror cells or IRGC people. Have you heard this report?
I have not heard this report, but that's very plausible because, in the first place, Venezuela is a rogue Marxist regime. They're very close to the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran doesn't care about Venezuela. It just wants to use it as a stepping stone to get into the United States. We have seen many people during the years of the Biden regime, when the border was open, many people coming up from Venezuela. So why not? There's absolutely no reason why that wouldn't be true or couldn't be true.
Here's the map. Here's the map the guy is showing.
Yep.
And he's claiming that we have these islands, I think it's called the Margarita Islands, and that since 2013, according to a House hearing, Venezuela, this island, has served as a Hezbollah training hub for local cartels, facilitating exchanges of tactics and resources. Iran and Venezuela long-standing alliance amplifies this. And that they're doing is they're smuggling people in here, potentially terrorists. And then he goes on, this Jason Luris, to show this map. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I'd love to see your group research this and tell us what you think.
Well, Hezbollah has been working for years with the cartels. And they're also working with the Mexican cartels around the border. So suddenly, a few years ago, we started to see opponents of the cartels in Mexico get beheaded. They never got beheaded before. Why are they getting beheaded now? Because the cartels are getting trained by Hezbollah operatives. And those people, that we have to remember that Hezbollah is a wholly owned and operated subsidiary of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So you could say that in a very real sense, the Islamic Republic of Iran is conducting a proxy war against the United States in Venezuela and Mexico in preparation for sending its operatives into this country.
And are you following the Sudan and all the Christians being killed in the Sudan? I know you're following Nigeria, but what about Sudan? You following that?
Oh, absolutely. We follow jihad all over the world at jihadwatch.org. So Sudan, you got the Rapid Support Forces, which is a jihad group. They used to be known as the Janjaweed, and they are Arab Muslims who kill Black African Muslims for not being the right kind of Muslim. It's not primarily actually a racial conflict, although it is along racial lines, but it's because they are of a different sect, a different group in Sudan, and so they are considered to be heretics and thus lawfully to be killed.
But then the Christians, I read, they've killed 2.8 million Christians.
That's right. The Christians are caught in the crossfire and actually are targeted by both the Sudanese military and the Rapid Support Forces, both because they're considered to be infidels who have no right to be in Sudan at all. According to Islamic theology, it is Islamic land. They should be subservient. If they're not subservient, then they can be killed.
So as we wrap here, Robert, are you, I guess, I don't even know if I should ask the question, because it seems like on its face, the answer would be, of course you're not. But are you shocked at how fast Islam is growing now in America, that it's getting defended, that the big attack is now on the Jews, and people are, what makes up what, 2% of the world's population? And so it's all about the Jews, where Islam, which is pumping billions into the U.S., mosques everywhere, talking openly in with their imams in the Mosque of America about, killing the infidels, taking over Sharia. Are you shocked that Islam is A, moving this fast now, and B, that they're getting elected, and C, that they seem to be being either ignored by people on the right while they attack the Jews, or even given a platform due to the Saudi or Qatari money? Are you shocked by all this, or is this exactly how you expected it was going to go down?
The groundwork for this has been laid for decades. Right after 9/11, remember, 6 days after 9/11, on September 17th, 2001, George W. Bush went into a mosque in Washington and he said, Islam is peace. And standing behind him were Nihad Awad of the Council on American Islamic Relations and Abdurrahman al-Amoudi of the American Muslim Council. Nihad Awad said just recently that he was happy about the October 7th jihad massacre. Al-Amoudi is still in prison for financing al-Qaeda. And these were the guys George W. was standing with when he's saying Islam is a religion of peace. That has been, I think, that was the defining moment that deformed our response to the 9/11 terror attacks and to the jihad threat in general. And now people have been told for 25 years that Islam is peace, that to think that Islam is not peace is racist and Islamophobic, that to resist the building of mosques is likewise bigoted, and so on. And so they've been programmed, and everybody takes it for granted. So the Islamic groups like the Brotherhood and Hamas have been taking advantage of this ignorance and running with it in the United States, and now we're seeing the fruit of what they've been doing.
And then in closing, I'll ask one more. October 7th. We've been warning, as have many, including you, I'm pretty sure, about an October 7th style attack. Where are we at on that? Where do you think?
Well,
What's the
that could happen anytime. That could happen very easily in the United States. After all, the Biden administration had the border open for years. We know that many, many hundreds of people on the terror watch list were caught crossing that border. And that means that an unknowable number of people on the terror watch list and other terrorists who weren't on the list are in the country and got through without being caught. They are just waiting for the time to strike. And there's really no reason why they shouldn't. because 9/11 was a huge victory for the jihadis. They made incredible gains in the United States. Most of the Muslims in the United States came here after 9/11. They have taken advantage of the Islamophobia business to make incredible inroads into the United States. Another attack of that magnitude would only help them solidify those gains.
Here it is, folks. Jihadwatch.org. You should visit it. You should visit it. There you go. Mamdani praises Imam who defended al-Qaeda terrorists and called for Sharia. I mean, there's so many articles. Hamas stockpiling weapons outside of Gaza. There's so much. And it's at jihadwatch.org. You know, some of our biggest numbers, I ask the guys occasionally, what topics does our audience really respond to? What topics do they really respond to? They tell me that some of the biggest numbers we get is when we cover Islam. That wasn't always the case. So I think that shows people are waking up, hopefully, right?
I hope so. But it's because you're one of the few people telling the truth about it now. Even today, you tune in some of the big, I don't want to name the names and get in some war, but you tune in some of the big names in the conservative movement, and they got on these fake moderate Muslims lying through their teeth, saying Islam is peace, and everybody eats it up because it's what they want to hear. And it's soothing words, but it's not true. And so I commend you for telling the truth about this issue.
Well, we get a lot of our information from you. So ditto for you. Jihadwatch.org, jihadwatch.org. As always, thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Brandon.
Robert Spencer checking in. Very serious topic, folks. Very serious. And we're going to stay on it. It's one of the 6 dominant worldviews ruling the world. Islam. We'll be right back. Take a look at this picture. This is my beautiful wife. Does that look like a grandmother to you? Seriously, does that look like a grandmother to you? Well, she is. I took this picture on August 31st, 2025. Now, you want to know how she stays so young and beautiful looking? Well, I'll tell you right now, she does 3 things for sure. She takes Numi every day that's loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. She also takes Bella Grace each and every day, loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. And she takes Gatatana, 1 scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. So you can get all of these products that she and myself take each and every day at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. It's a great way to support your health and also our broadcast network as we continue to push out free Christian worldview programming. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Dr. Lana. Now, look, guys, I don't want you to go anywhere. We need your support, and I think you need these products for your health. So will you give us 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. 10 minutes after all the interviews we do, sometimes an hour, 2 hours without a break, no commercials. Give me 10 minutes, okay, to just reiterate why I take Numi every day, why I swish with it, and why I take Gatatana every day. Joining me now is Dr. Lana. Dr. Lana, give us the big bullet points, particularly for all the new folks, on why it is Melissa and I do Numi and Gatatana. Of course, I do Bella Grace too, but Numi and Gatatana. Why do I do these every day? Why do you do them every day?
We absolutely need them to live. I mean, this is, I was on Zoom with a Harvard-trained doctor, and Stephen Scott, a beautiful Christian man who researched this from a doctor at the Mayo Clinic decades ago. You can't breathe without the glutathione molecule. Like, this is like oxygen in a bottle. We need this to live, honestly. And you start losing glutathione about age 20. And so in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you start to lose glutathione. You're born with a ton and you die with none. And this is the only delivery system. I'm sorry?
And this is tied to possibly Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, when you start seeing a decrease in the glutathione in your system, correct?
And we say, yes, the short answer is, and we're not saying this reverses, any disease. However, the glutathione molecule, the brain desperately needs it. Okay, it needs it to function. Your liver needs it to function. We do. We even have, a brain swish as well. However, this is the core.
That one's
this
3
is
times
the core.
stronger now. Isn't that one 3 times stronger now?
This is 3 times stronger. And this is something, my friends, I've been here with Brandon for a long time now, and I know him and his lovely wife. This is my career reputation, just like Brandon's. We can't live without the glutathione molecule. You can't take a breath without it. And you started losing that molecule at age 20. And then you add free radicals and these forever chemicals and glyphosate weed killer. Your cell phones destroy your glutathione levels. Your cell phones do. And the viruses and variants destroy it. And simple aging. Simple aging reduces your glutathione. This is the only delivery system on the entire planet in the world that will put glutathione back in your cells, the whole molecule back in your cells in about 70 to 90 seconds. You can get a glutathione IV. That's great. If you do, those leave your body in 30 hours. So you need another one. You need to go to the doctor every 30 hours to get a glutathione IV. They're about $100 to $500 in the United States. And the glutathione IVs need to go in a 100-step sequential process to put the glutathione back together again in your body before your body can use it in an IV. Not the case here. This is getting the whole glutathione molecule in your cells in seconds. And I will tell you that we've had hundreds of thousands of people in over 70 countries tell us stories, because we're not making a health claim about Alzheimer's or dementia or type 2 diabetes or irritable bowel syndrome or acid reflux or you name it from head to toe. Your body can't function without glutathione. So this isn't like a supplement, in your kitchen cabinet or your bathroom cabinet, like, some vitamin C is a great protein drink or something. That's not what this is. This is literally, if you will, life in a bottle. We have a doctor on our medical board at NUMMI. I'm on the medical board there. We are not paid to be there. There's a doctor overseas in Greece who did genetic testing on this glutathione swish and saw this. This is where Brandon said, take a minute, take 10 minutes. Just stop what you're doing right now. And I know you've heard me a long time. If you don't hear anything else, hear this. This doctor did genetic testing on the glutathione swish from NUMMI. This is the fastest, most affordable, safest, most effective delivery system of glutathione in the world, and you die without it. You can't breathe without it. He did genetic testing and saw that the good genes were elevating and staying in balance. The bad genes, if you will, I'm keeping this very elementary and basic, the bad genes were down-regulated so the body could go back to homeostasis. So it's supporting all the good genes and it's down-regulating the bad genes so the body can be in homeostasis. And when your body is in balance, diseases can't flourish and grow. We all want to age with longevity. We all want to age with independence and vitality. And glutathione is at the core of your eyesight, your breathing, your movement, your cognitive function, your aging and vitality and independence. And this is not something that you just think, I'm going to try it. This should be in every single American household. I'm really serious. This is air in a bottle, life in a bottle. And the genetic testing was just jaw-dropping, showing that it brings the body back into homeostasis, back into balance. Just fascinating.
All right, let's switch now real quick in the remaining moments and talk about Gatatana. Go. And we have a lower third for that, which is melissahouseGPA.com, by the way.
We do. So everybody is searching for this perfect supplement, right? Multivitamins or fish oil pills, you can save your money. Even save your money on sea moss, chlorella, all of that, because God made phytoplankton. There's 90 billion plant cells in here in one little scoop. You can put in a couple ounces of cold liquid and shoot it down. You could take 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 4 scoops a day. Why? This is God's perfect food. It is microscopic single cell food, comprehensive nutrition. There's protein in here. There's omega-3 fatty acids in here. There are vitamins in here. There's minerals in here. There's amino acids in here. The perfect combination because God made it. Man just dried it and put it in this jar so you can take a scoop every single day, or 2 scoops or 3 scoops. Every person in your family can take this and should, because this is getting God's perfect microscopic phytoplankton nutrition into your cells in seconds. Why? Well, anybody at any age can take this because it is literally food. It's the first food on the planet. It provides almost 70 to 90% of the oxygen on the planet. So why care? When you get pure, comprehensive nutrition inside your cells, this is the only way to do it. Pure, pristine nutrition. It can help balance. We're not making health claims, but when you can get nutrition like that inside your cells, which you can't do always with food, most people have gut issues, your body starts to balance itself. If there was something off because of a nutritional issue, most of our chronic degenerative diseases, illnesses, and sicknesses are nutritionally based. Okay. And when you take a scoop of Gatatana every single day, everybody in your family should, it can balance blood sugar and blood pressure and cholesterol and help with behavior and anxiety and nervousness and give you clear, clean energy. Why? No health claims. You're getting pure microscopic nutrition inside your cells. Most of our issues are from poor nutrition, and our bodies aren't getting the right minerals, the right vitamins, the right protein. Well, you don't have to worry about anything. And there's no contraindications, my friends, none. There's no side effects, no contraindications. It doesn't matter how old you are, if you're on medications, doesn't matter at all. There's 0 contraindications. You could take this if you're on medicine, if you're not on medicine, no matter how old you are, you take a scoop a day and a couple ounces of cold liquid, cold coconut water. You could take it in cold almond milk if you want, chocolate almond milk or something that tastes good, nothing hot. Every single family member should take a scoop of Gatatana every single day. And I'm telling you, from A to Z, head to toe, our bodies are suffering basically from nutritional malfunction, if you will, malnutrition. And this helps get God's pure nutrition back in your cells. So if you have any low energy, behavior issues, blood sugar, blood pressure, blood cholesterol, I mean, A to Z, digestive issues, absolutely take 1 to 4 scoops of Gatatana a day. And this is not a health claim. This is getting pure nutrition inside your cells. There's no other way to do it.
And of course, I love showing this right here because this is the guy that developed it with his daughter. He was growing it for his fish, got a terminal diagnosis. He thought, what do I got to lose? So he started eating it out of the tank, the paste, and went in for 11 biopsies. They came back benign. He went on to live another 10 years, retired to Hawaii, correct?
Absolutely. And no, absolutely. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is going to be part of my legacy, this Gatatana. Every American family should have this Gatatana in their cupboard, taking it every day. So every person, that's no matter how young or how old, they should be taking it, because that story fueled eventually David Hunter. And that's their story. It's not ours. But yeah. David Hunter watched Tom Harper, watched this. He worked with him. Mm-hmm. And that's led David Hunter to study phytoplankton for the last 20 years. Yep. He's devoted his entire life. And this is the highest quality, most pristine phytoplankton in the world.
And I take a scoop.
It's a miracle.
I take a scoop of that in water every day. I give half a scoop to Dolly and her food every morning as a pet product. By the way, I don't know if you guys are talking about this, but do you realize that she's over a year old now? Her teeth are as white as the day I got her as a puppy. You do realize that I guess this phytoplankton eats off a lot of the garbage you can get on a dog's teeth, right? Helps them stay healthy and better teeth. Are you guys aware of that?
It's amazing. I have one of my patients who her adult daughter became friends with me, saved her dog, kept her dog alive. It was dying. The dog was 19 years old. The dog lived like almost 6 months more. It was literally dying in her arms. We've had dogs with, hard tumors, in their bodies. And then the owner puts a scoop of Gatatana on their dry food or wet food every single day. And they go back to the vet, months later. And we're not saying this cures anything,
Right.
but we've had hundreds of thousands of people take this, especially in Canada for the last 12 years. There's thousands and thousands of stories.
Well,
So
we've
we're not
got the
making claims.
picture of the cat with the tumor in its eye, and then I
Yeah.
guess it got on Gatatana and the tumor went away.
Exactly.
So I
because
take it and I give it to my pets.
Oh, absolutely. There's no other way to get God's pure nutrition inside your cell walls. And it's absorbed like that.
Right to the
It doesn't
mitochondrial level, right down to the mitochondrial level, boost your immune system and let your own immune system fight off the bad stuff. That's what you're saying, I think, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Now, these are great ways to support us, I think, and your health, folks. This is very important. There's studies behind this, 165,000 on the glutathione. I think there's about 5 or 6 studies on the Gatatana on our various websites we've referenced tonight. So again, very important. 20?
Yeah, 22,000, almost 22,000 studies on phytoplankton.
Oh, wow. Wow, I did not know that. All right, so there you go, folks. Thank you, Dr. Lana.
Thank you. God bless everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for supporting us. All right. All right, join me now is David Pyne for an update on one of these advanced weapons that Putin has, Putin's new super weapons that could obliterate the West in seconds, how Kremlin could trigger Armageddon at the flick of a switch with flying Chernobyl, tsunami torpedo, and space nuke. Yeah, they're lined up in that subtitle, aren't they? David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, great to be with you.
All right, so tell me about this article, please.
Yeah, so Russian President Vladimir Putin, he announced 6 different Russian nuclear superweapon systems in 2018. No one really, I think, believed that they would be deployed so quickly, but I think most of those systems have been deployed. In fact, some of them have been used in the war in Ukraine, including the Kinzhal, and I think even the Zircon submarine-launched hypersonic missile has also been tested in Ukraine. Obviously, neither one of which have been tested with their nuclear warheads. But this Daily Mail article, the Daily Mail is one of my favorites because it really just accentuates the Russian nuclear threat that we face. And it's a threat that is much greater than most people realize. Folks like Dr. John Mearsheimer, who I respect greatly, just they don't really understand the importance of Russia having nuclear superiority and perhaps even supremacy over the United States in terms of, the advanced weapon systems they have, their capabilities. The number of warheads they have, which according to Ukraine are much greater than ours, with 16,000 total warheads, 6,000 of which are strategic. The U.S. probably has about 1/3 of that number in terms of strategic warheads that we have operational. So one of the probably the most important of these super weapon systems, of course, is the Poseidon. The Poseidon is essentially a underwater unmanned vehicle, which is nuclear powered. It has a 100 megaton nuclear warhead. I think you've had a lot of folks on your show, including Dr. Peter Pry, the late courageous executive director of the Task Force on National Homeland Security, who has talked about this system. He published a report that's available on Amazon, discussing the capabilities of the system and his belief that it's actually designed not to take out the Atlantic seaboard or even to drown the United Kingdom, but actually to destroy U.S. nuclear missile submarines from a distance of up to 50 kilometers. And while U.S. Navy sonar can detect torpedoes being fired close by from an enemy submarine, perhaps within 3 or 4 kilometers, there's no way they could detect a torpedo from 50 kilometers or probably even 10 or 20 kilometers for that matter.
So you're also reporting or have put out there that Zelensky I guess he's bragged about and smirked about being the one that disrupted the meeting between President Trump and himself and Putin. I mean, I don't know if this is in. I bet we won't be able to understand it. Let's play it for what it's worth.
The result of this meeting.
Oh, wait, he is in English. Here we go.
What can I say? And we'll not go to details. So the result of this meeting, we have sanctions on Russian energy. We don't have meeting in Hungary without Ukraine. And we have not yet tomahawks. That's it. This is the result. I think not bad.
Okay, so am I to understand he's the one that leaned into President Trump not to have his summit with Putin? That Zelensky was the one that talked Trump out of doing that?
Well, he's claiming credit. I mean, I personally think it was Marco Rubio that there was an article that talked about the fact that it was Marco Rubio that convinced Trump to torpedo the summit, which he himself proposed in Budapest. He, of course, had a really great call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. I think it was on or around October 13th. Then he met with Zelensky on the 17th in the White House. Actually, I think it was the 16th. And the very next day, I think he met with Zelensky, and he read Zelensky the law, essentially, the Riot Act. He said that Ukraine is going to lose, guaranteed. There's no way they can win. There's no way they can recapture any territory, no matter how many weapon systems we give them. And Russia is offering what Trump termed a very reasonable offer and a good deal for Ukraine. And he famously, threw Zelensky's map on the floor and said, I'm sick of this. We're ending this war right now. And then he came out of the meeting singing Zelensky's tune, saying that, wouldn't be fair to surrender even one more square inch of Ukrainian territory to Russia. So that was a big disappointment. And then within a day or so, the Trump White House announced that the Budapest meeting was canceled, that Trump was actually, I think it was the next week. So it was within 4 or 5 days of the Zelensky meeting that of his call with Putin that it was canceled. So that was, it's very unfortunate because Trump has all these great ideas. He has, a great plan for peace with Russia, but he lacks the courage to implement those plans. It's unfortunate because he surrounded himself with neocon warmongers like Rubio and Ratcliffe at CIA, and of course Keith Kellogg is special envoy to Ukraine, and others. His chief of staff reportedly is a neocon. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane is neoconservative. We just need President Trump to keep his promise to end the war in Ukraine, which he promised to do 53 times on the campaign trail by the end of the first day of his presidency.
And yet here we are almost a year since he was elected. It's been a year since he was elected, over a year since he was elected. Will be a year in January that he was sworn in, and the war's still going on. And speaking of wars, look at this headline. Germany's moving towards reinstating conscription. Apparently, Germany's ruling coalition parties have struck a deal. The agreement establishes hybrid system centered on voluntary military service with the potential for mandatory call-ups if recruitment targets are not met, driven by heightened security threats from Russia's war in Ukraine. Germany's preparing for war, aren't they, David?
Well, they are, and it's a war they'd be guaranteed to lose. If Germany was smart, they'd be building nuclear weapons. Germany used to be a great power. They used to be a superpower. In both world wars, they were essentially a military superpower that, came very close, at least in the First World War, to winning the war with, the defeat of Russia, of course, and a near defeat of Western forces on the Western Front. And then, of course, Hitler, perhaps if he hadn't invaded the Soviet Union, he certainly would have won the war in the West. He did win the war in the West, but then he got a little too greedy. But in the case of Germany, while I would normally applaud Germany to remilitarize, I think that this is essentially wasted money because they're creating their own threat, along with other EU and NATO countries to try to antagonize Russia to the maximum extent, send Ukraine long-range missiles. I think, Germany has talked about sending their long-range missiles to Ukraine. I don't think they've done so yet. Britain and France, the U.S., of course, have with the U.S. ATACMS missiles. We're looking at, Tomahawks, JASSMs, all kinds of, and then, of course, the Iran missiles that Trump has foolishly decided to sell to Ukraine, a total of 3,550, of which the first batch of 10 was due to arrive in Ukraine just last month. And those missiles would be fired from Ukrainian F-16s, which, according to General Jack Keane, a former four-star general and Army Vice Chief of Staff, would be fired by retired USAF combat pilots from Ukrainian aircraft, since Ukraine doesn't really have any trained pilots to man those aircraft. So this is a recipe for potential World War III. And as the article pointed out in the Daily Mail, Russia has super EMP satellites. They have satellites. They have a satellite in orbit right now, which has a radiation signature indicating it's got either a nuclear propulsion system or nuclear warheads on board, perhaps both, and it may have the ability to launch nuclear missiles from that satellite, as well as detonate a super EMP.
So, David, I'm going to ask you in closing, how do you feel? Are you optimistic for the future, or are you very, very concerned?
Well, I think Trump has done a good job with the Gaza ceasefire. He's setting up a U.S. military base, essentially a 3-star command to monitor potential Hamas violations and determine which of those he believes that Israel is, should react to. So I think he's done a good job in the Middle East. Hopefully, we won't see a rerun of the Iran bombing strikes. I have a friend of mine who's saying that he's hearing that we're about to go to war with Venezuela, could be within days. I'm not sure if those reports are credible, but I think his sources are good. So that's likely to happen in terms of at least bombing strikes, regime change operations, perhaps special forces, raids in Caracas. So that's not looking too good, but I've actually been in, the one place I've always supported regime change are in Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, because they're all communist regimes in our backyard. And then China, in terms of Straight Thunder, they had the Straight Thunder 2025A exercises in April 1st and April 2nd of earlier this year. It's possible we won't see a repeat of those in terms of Straight Thunder 2025B exercises, because Trump just had a meeting with Xi Jinping in South Korea on October 31st, in which he made a number of key concessions to China. I think China walked away, Xi walked away happy in terms of Trump committing to ratchet things down with Taiwan in terms of any independence moves, and perhaps even other concessions we're not aware of. So that looks a little more hopeful than what I was seeing earlier this year. But in terms of the war in Ukraine, I think Trump is really making a lot of mistakes, a lot of unforced errors that could lead to a potential war with Russia.
That could lead to potential war with Russia, which we don't want, because we just started out talking about all the super weapons that Putin has. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. As always, David, thank you for our regular updates. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you as well.
David Pyne checking in tonight. Check out his site, dpine.substack.com, and we'll be right back after this very short break. We have a big announcement, folks. It's called Bella Melt. In the first week, you lost 3 pounds on this, right?
That is correct.
Your GLP-1 is a natural hormone that's in every single one of our bodies. And your GLP-1 lets you know if you're full. It's a satiety hormone. So when your GLP is working properly, it does help suppress your appetite as well as reduce those cravings. So what it's going to do best is it's going to reduce your sugar cravings or any other cravings you have in your body. It's going to suppress that appetite. But where Melissa got the most benefit, I think, over the last week was the L-carnitine. The L-carnitine tells your mitochondria, this is where you make, we talked about it before, this is where you produce energy in your cells. It actually tells those mitochondria to burn fat for fuel.
MelissaHouseBG.com just now introducing for the first time Bella Melt with GLP-1 Fast Action. All right, joining me as my last guest for tonight is Anni Cyrus. She's back. She's becoming a regular here, isn't she? But I got to get her response. As I did from Robert Spencer tonight, to the Crown Prince visiting the White House. And we showed you the video footage of the incredible reception he got for his country and his incredible troubling background. I love to see what Anni thinks about it. And then also what she thinks about Greg Abbott today, finally doing something about Muslim Brotherhood and Council on American Islamic Relations. Although, again, I have to wonder how much of this is just Greg Abbott blowing air. Anni, welcome back. I had to at least bring you on to get your thoughts on this. What did you think when you were watching all this today at the White House?
Well, first of all, it's always good to be back. Secondly, I'm going to be very honest here. I did not watch all of it. I could have stand maybe about 4 minutes. Physically, I literally felt like my organs are twisting inside my body. I can't wrap my head around what's happening in our White House, which is our country. Like, the White House is the symbol of America. And what's happening, like, from excusing a journalist's death. When did we get to where and this isn't the first time, I can review it if you want, but that is just beyond acceptable. How many more of these killers and dictators and Islamists and jihad funders is Trump going to defend and call good looking and the good leader and the strong leader and this and that? That was my limit. From there, that was my limit. The arrival was, I on the phone off air, I asked you, Brian, I said, I would like to know who's paying for this, because if it's my tax dollar, I am not going to pay for it. Who was coming? This guy isn't even the king of Saudi Arabia. Not that if he was the king, we should have spent this much time, energy, effort, coordination. Our veterans are literally on the streets, homeless, barely feeding themselves, and the country has the budget and the time and the manpower to put this shit right together for a murderer, for a man who silenced anyone who tries to get inside the inner circle of his entire family's kingdom and monarch to expose what they're doing to their citizens. I can go on for the rest of the night.
And tell our audience, for those who don't know, about his involvement in the murder of the journalist.
He pretty much, based on released information, including from our own CIA, he put the hit on the man. And he funded the entire team that went to Turkey to kill the man and deliver on the hit. Wait a minute, is that real
footage, Logan, or is that AI? He was really slapping hands with him like that? Is that his left hand? He's holding the dude's left hand right there. Yeah. What do they do?
Yeah, they're buddies.
What do they do with their left hand, Anni?
You want me to say?
Go ahead.
They wipe their butt.
Yeah. I mean, I told my wife and son that today. They're like, no. Logan says that sounds normal. They don't use toilet paper, though. They use their actual hand, right?
I should have said they wash using water and left hand. They wash themselves after using the bathroom.
But no toilet paper or towel, just their hand and water.
No, just hand and water.
I mean, but I don't want to get crude here or anything, but how do they do that? I mean, do they like jump over to the sink, or do they put sinks next to the stool so they can do it all in one time in one place?
Oh no, if you go to not just Middle East, even here to Muslim homes, if they're using what Middle Easterns call the Western bathroom, which is what we're used to here, there is on the side when we have the what do we call it? Flush?
Yeah,
flush the toilet.
Yeah, the knob,
they have
the
a
flush
little
the toilet,
hose.
the handle of the flush
Yes,
the toilet.
there's a little hose next to it though. Getting water from the same tank, they use that hose. If you go to Middle East, majority of the homes, their toilet isn't the way ours is. It's literally a stoned hole on the ground. They have to sit and put their weight on their legs while using the toilet. And then also there's a faucet with a hose on the wall that they use to do the washing.
And again, I don't want to get graphic, but they just use their bare hand in water.
Yes.
But what? According to the Quran, they have to use their left hand?
Well, yes. There's a left foot that you walk into the toilet with, and then you use your left hand to wash and hold the hose with your right hand.
And this is in the Quran?
Not in the Quran. It's in Sharia. It's in Reliance.
Reliance of the Traveler?
Yes.
Which is a bunch of...
And don't quote me, I think there is one Sahih Muslim and one Dawood hadith about it. Now, back in Muhammad time, there was no technology of hose or flush or whatever. So it was the water in a little small, like a pitcher, they would keep next to their toilet.
So can we go back to what you were just showing, Logan? Does President Trump realize he's slapping hands with the left hand there that does the business? Because he's a germaphobe, right?
Is he? I didn't know the germaphobe, but I don't think he does. And even if he did, I mean, look at that excitement in this guy. By this guy, I mean Trump. And again, when you look at that close-up, I said this in a funny way last week on your show, and we laughed about it. But you keep that close-up scene, you would actually think Trump is in Saudi Arabia at Crown Prince's room with all that gold display. My Islamophobia aside, if you didn't pick up on the sarcasm, I'm being sarcastic. That aside, all of my bad experiences as a child under Islam aside, all of my decade of work to save Muslim girls and women aside, I cannot believe that President Trump is lowering the standard of our White House to an extent that you don't even have to be a world leader. You don't even have to have the title or the crown or the election behind you to just have fun at White House with Trump.
Shoo. All right. So now we're going to give Saudi Arabia F-35s. I asked Robert Spencer about that. What do you think about that?
I think that is brilliant. More chaos in Middle East. Let Saudi Arabia have all the things they need to get behind Turkey and wipe Israel off the map. Why not? Saudi Arabia isn't rich enough to do it on their own. You know, it's not like they sit on billions and billions of tanks of oil. It's not like they're number one seller in the world. Let's give them F-35. So when they decide that they have had it with Jelani, and Jelani, they're losing control of Jelani, which, by the way, they already are losing control of Jelani. On another breaking news, Saudi Arabia just lost complete control of Iraq. They can use their F-35 on Iraq, on Syria. Hey, let's use it on Iran. Why not? Because we're looking for everlasting peace in Middle East, and nothing screams everlasting peace better than selling more weapons and military equipment to bunch of jihadists. I'm sorry. I know my level of sarcasm is off the chart. If not, I can't. I have reached my limit, Brennan.
Yeah,
I can't.
Well,
by the way, if I could insert breaking news, Iraq just had their parliament election, and the party that won the majority of seats there is the one and only party fully funded and backed by Iran. Iraq just went full control under IRGC. And that's how Saudi lost track of Iraq. We are about to lose full control
and by
of
the
Iraq.
way, not to defend Saddam Hussein, but if he were still alive, I don't know if he'd be alive anymore with his age, but if he were still in control, he wouldn't have let Iran take over.
Never. That's the fun. This is where I tell people stop saying 3D chess, game of politics. We backed Saddam Hussein in Iran-Iraq war for 8 years because we were trying to clean up Carter's mess by placing mullahs in Iran. When that war was over and we realized we can't topple the regime even during 8 years of war funding Saddam Hussein, then we went back and said, weapon of mass destruction in Iraq because, well, we gave it to Saddam Hussein. Let's go get rid of Saddam Hussein so we can control Iraq to be closer to controlling Iran. And 20 years later, guess what? Iran controls Iraq.
Not to mention, I think a bunch of British and American petroleum companies got oil out of Iraq.
Yes. Don't forget France. It was France, UK, and US funding the war while sucking oil out of Iraq and some opium for that matter. That we're repeating the same pattern. Look, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to make this short and I'm going to stay calm and coherent. I am watching an interview today with one of the heads of Iran's war assessment or war room personnel. And this guy's sitting there using our action to motivate Iranians to not topple the regime. How does he do that? He brings up the full history of America's involvement with Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya. And on the comments section, I watch as comments of Iranians who hate the regime with every cell in their body saying, as long as we don't have guarantee U.S. isn't coming into Iran, we should let the mullahs stay in power. There is so much evidence in Middle East of our wrongdoing, for lack of a better term, that Middle Easterns are starting to think they're better off with mullahs and al-Shura than ever thought of America having a role.
All right, let me switch topics real quick with you. I guess Mondani there of New York has endorsed a lady by the name of Kawas. Kawas. I think she's running. What is she running for? I think she's running for New York State Assembly. He's endorsed her for New York State Assembly. Have you heard this? Have you heard her speak?
I have not heard the video. I believe you sent me the video, but I haven't watched it yet.
Well, here it is. Well, let me plug it in. Plug it in, House.
So, and finding that, the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is a long trajectory. And we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right, if you look back, historically, right, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right, a lot of times because of U.S. policy or the policies in Europe. And so I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for a terror attack that a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc., is something that I kind of find
okay, she's as dumb as a box of rocks.
Is she Palestinian?
I don't know what she is. She's disgusting. Because
she
reparations, it was the Muslims that were helping to grab the slaves and bring them to the slave ships. So she wants to talk about reparations. Is she talking about reparations for slavery in America? Then go get it from the Islamic nations with all the money.
No, she's asking for genocide, reparation for genocide that has taken place in Middle East. That's what she's asking for.
Oh, really? You mean where the Muslims have killed Christians? That kind of reparations for the Christians?
Exactly, no, or the Baha'is, or the Zoroastrians.
She's writing her own history. Talk about colonization. Who is it that took over Egypt? That was a Coptic Christian nation. So the Muslims came over there and took it over. I mean, you can name other countries this has happened to. Iran, right?
Yes. Let me quickly. This might come to you and your audience as a surprise. She literally just said what I was saying, twisted in her own narrative, though. She is right. You see a lot of damage, a lot of death, a lot of war happening in the Middle East because of American policy. I just said that before we went to her video.
Right.
That is correct. But she's twisting it into, we're not going to tell people about Islamic jihad. We're going to tell people about the few people who committed terrorism. So we're going to hide half truth again.
She was referring
Yes.
to 9/11, a few people that did a few things, kind of.
Or October 7th. I'm going to look it up. The way she's wearing her hijab is extremely Palestinian. But she doesn't have an accent, so she might be Palestinian family born in America, but she might be referring to October 7th. She might be referring to September 11th. She might be referring to all of it. But I want to say, this is why I get frustrated. We have given them enough material to twist the truth or tell half truth. If I was, Lord forbid, if I was a leftist, brainwashed Muslim woman, I would sit and say the same things, except I would be a lot smarter in my sentencing. And I would say, look at Iraq, look at Libya, look at Afghanistan, look at this, look at that. And I would make everybody believe that it is all because of American policy. It's not. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if we don't wake up, if we don't realize what we're doing, we're just giving these people, these liars who are using Taqiyya and Ketman and Hudna and Hijra to conquer our country, we're just giving them enough ammunition to sit there and say what they say. Again, I'm not defending her. You get what I'm saying here, right?
Yep.
We need to stop our politicians from creating the narrative that these people can use.
Yep.
And also we need to publicly, for example, instead of inviting al-Shara or Erdogan or Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and whomever is next on the list, my bet is on Iran's president. I won this on the record. My bet is the next invitation will be the president of Iran, and everybody's going to come out saying, well, Obama did it too. Nobody's going to blame Trump for doing it. They're just going to compare it to Obama, which, yes, he did. Anyway, side note. Point is, instead of doing all of that, we should publicly educate Americans on the truth history of Islam, Islamization, Islamic jihad. When you invite these jihadists into your White House, empower them, legitimize them, and then this, whomever she is, sits there and tell half-truth of history, I can't blame Americans for believing her or having sympathy for her. We need to be educated. We need to stop looking at who's coming to the White House and think just because they're at the White House, they're good guys. Those days are over. Apparently today, the bigger of a land Trump owns in your country, the bigger the invitation to White House.
Okay, other topic real quick. What do you make of Muslim Brotherhood and CARE being designated as a terrorist and transnational criminal organization by Abbott? Is this just, I asked this of Robert Spencer earlier tonight, is this just more posturing by the governor of Texas, Abbott, or will he actually do something?
I don't think he's going to do something. I believe this was a show because he was receiving too much heat about Epic City, about the entire immigration campus thing there. He just wanted to come out and say, look, I did something for my people and I designated Muslim Brotherhood. We both know designation on its own doesn't do anything. Is he going to have his people go start chasing down Muslim Brotherhood linked soldiers in Texas? No. If they pick one up, is he going to make sure they're deported? No, he's just going to dump it at federal government and move on. It's another, throw them a little bit of bone so they stop being upset. That's my take on it.
Take a look at this here, guys. LUTFstudio.com, LUTFstudio.com. These are handmade by Annie herself. They're one of a kind. And they make great Christmas gifts. LUTFstudio.com. We get nothing for mentioning it other than we want to make sure Annie has plenty of side work because that's what helps fund her work and research. So again, LUTF Studio. I said before, I love that color blue. LUTFstudio.com. Look at that. That's a cool bowl. Is that a bowl? That's a bowl, right?
Candle holder.
A candle holder. That's cool. Okay, so LUTFstudio.com, LUTF stands for Live Up to Freedom. LUTFstudio.com. Make great Christmas gifts. Check them out. And then, of course, she's up at liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com, and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. I think I got it all in there, Annie.
Amazing. Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, they're all correctly in there.
All right. Well, try to calm down and get some sleep tonight. Don't get too upset. We'll try to hold down the fort.
I will try. If not tonight, definitely tomorrow night.
Anni Cyrus checking in. Liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, and LUTFstudio.com. All right, guys. Another big broadcast tonight. By the way, we're working on my commentary, my verse-by-verse commentary on the book of Revelation. I spent a year and a half teaching through that. And now we're laying the pages out and editing it. How long is it going to be, Logan? How many pages? What do you think? You couldn't give me a guess? More than 500 pages? Okay, more than 500 pages. Maybe 1,000? 2 parts. It's going to be so big we have to do 2 parts. Well, it's 22 chapters and it's verse by verse, so that's going to happen. But we are busy doing that. We thought we were going to get it out by the end of the month. I don't think so. I think it'll be in December that we get it out. Let's pray. Because I got to go through everything and make sure that everything is correct. I didn't make any mistakes when I was talking and writing, because I wrote all this and gave it all and then come back and write some more onto it. And I got to make sure that everything's and then I give it to an editor. And I got to make sure nothing got changed. And then I think of some things. I want to add a few things. So it's a big process. Whew, it's a big process. But anyway, we do have my Hamas book. How about Siege, right? That's in there, right, Logan? All of that's in the vault. All that's in the vault automatically. worldviewtube.com/vault. Now, do we have all the national conferences in there now? All the keynotes from that? Yeah. Except for Alex, right? We still got to get Alex's in there because we had to fix his audio and his clips. So we got to get that done. But all the rest of them are in there. There's 35 years. We'll just say 35. But next year we'll start saying 36. 35 years of ebooks, audiobooks, transcripts, documentaries, conference DVDs, and so more on demand for as little as $7.99 a month, folks. It's a great way to support us and get great content. Archive of 35 years of content there at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Now, don't forget, we need your support through our foundation. Do not forget us in your end of the year giving. We had to buy another server the other day. Is that what you call it, Logan? A server? That hard drive? What'd that cost? $6,000? We had another one. That one was about $6,000. Then we got, what did you get that one by? 3 or 4 years ago? And they fill up. They get full. We keep using them, but they get full, and we got to then go get another one because we're adding so many files, and we got to archive this stuff and hold it all. So if you appreciate all we're doing, understand we're constantly having to buy new equipment and additional equipment because you have to have somewhere to store all these files that you're watching. Now we're live, but when we go off, guess what? We're going to load it back up. That has to be loaded somewhere. That has to sit somewhere. And then we have to back it up in multiple places. So it's just $6,000 here, $5,000 there. It's crazy. Television production is so expensive. So if you appreciate the fact that we're pushing out free programming, it's not free for us to produce. So please be as generous as possible with your end of the year giving. Worldviewfoundation.com. Can you do $500? Can you do $1,000? Can you do more than that? Worldviewfoundation.com. We need your support. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Worldviewfoundation.com. Okay? Now, don't forget, coming up on Thursday, December 4th, and Thursday, December 4th, Friday, December 5th, we're doing a international worldview weekend. We're going to preempt all programming for that day, other than my normal radio show, and bring in lots of speakers to do a 2-day international worldview weekend that will be absolutely free. Mark your calendar, December 4 and 5. All right? So next time at Brandon House, may God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
All right, welcome. Glad you're with us today. We are going to be joined by Patrick Wood. He's written a brand new book that, frankly, all of you should read. I get nothing for saying that other than an informed and educated audience. It's called The Final Betrayal. Now, I've made reference to it, but I was up till pretty late last night reading this book, highlighting this book. This is a broadcast for people that want the truth. If you want someone to do the whole left, right, all the Democrats are bad, Republicans are wonderful, then this is not your program. We don't do that. We're about truth. We're not partisan in that way. If you want someone that will give you unicorns and rainbows and a bunch of hopium and tell you how their posse is going to take over and restore liberty and freedom and sell you hopium because they know that a percentage of the population just craves that, lie to us and tell us how everything's going to be great, then this program's not for you. We're not a program that's looking to depress people. We're not looking to give you bad news because we can actually put all of this in the context of the Bible. And that's where we're looking for hope, the blessed hope, the return of the Lord. And the more I read these things, the more I say, even so, Lord Jesus, quickly come, and night shall be no more. I also realize that what I'm reading in this book is laying the foundation for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, which makes me understand God is in control. He knows the beginning from the end. He is the Alpha and the Omega. And he has told us in his word what's going to happen if we'll study it. That's why we went through the book of Revelation, verse by verse, for a year and a half, which, by the way, I'm working on the commentary and study guide for that. Okay, I thought that was going to be like 200 pages. I don't know why. I thought, I don't know, where did that come from originally? Maybe I was confusing it with siege or sabotage or something. But I've been going through that. I get from my